having a very disturbing conversation with Sam Faddis, one of our regulars here, I'm proud to say, at Securing America, a member of our Committee on the Present Danger China, among other things, and one of, I think, the most thoughtful and insightful and effective of those warning about what is happening to our country under our noses. And Sam, I teed up the question of where are the Democrats in connection with this revolutionary communist party now moving into the streets with a clear purpose of overthrowing our government and establishing a Marxist communist regime here. Um, do they see this as good for business, or are they simply missing in action as this plays out?
Well, Frank, you made reference to Scoop Jackson. My grandfather was a Democratic congressman from Pennsylvania, and I have the same thought all the time. He is rolling in his grave. I mean, because he was a guy who stood for working people and what were we thought very traditional Democratic Party attitudes at that point. He also fought in both world wars. In fact, resigned from Congress to go back in uniform and go back in action. And prior to World War II was all about building up our military because he saw what was coming and we needed to get a running start at this thing. And now he would just say straight up, I mean, Charles Isaiah Faddis would say, this is a communist party. I don't recognize that. They have been taken over. However, it has happened. That is clearly the agenda. I mean, look at these actions in Catholic churches that we just saw. And by the way, which this organization Rise Up for Abortion Rights is has every intention of organizing to continue and expand and sustain. Could you be any more old school communist Marxist in your face? This, what do you destroy? You destroy religion, you destroy the family, you destroy anything that stands between the individual and the state. All those institutions have to go because there can't be any other God other than the chairman of the party. And there it is. And yet look on the so-called mainstream media and find any reference to this ongoing communist
Yeah,
revolution. You can't find it
yeah.
anywhere.
And again, Sam, and we'll move on, but just to press you on this particular point, is the absence of the main so-called mainstream media, which is well documented to be very much aligned with the Democratic Party and often, I think, simply serving as kind of its mouthpiece,
Right.
is its uh, failure to even report on these events, let alone to, editorialize against them, a function basically of the absence of the party, or at best the absence of the party, the Democratic Party, and at worst it's throwing in with this effort to use abortion as a vehicle for effecting, a permanent hold on political power.
I don't think when you're all done, for me, that you can reach any other conclusion than what you're talking about is deliberate. That this is not purely being feckless or just a this is you absolutely 100% have malfeasance. This is a deliberate action. It is impossible to conceive that they don't understand and are simply missing what is in front of their faces. In other words, they are part of the problem, and there is a very deliberate element to this
Mm.
that to transform our society and really destroy the constitutional republic.
Treason, I think, is
Yeah.
the term for it at the end of the day. Sam, let me switch gears, not altogether, because it's kind of another manifestation, more subtle perhaps, or less violent for sure, but deeply problematic in its own right. We've been talking on the program of late about this effort by the Biden administration to effectively transfer a critical sovereign responsibility, namely for public health,
Mhm.
to a wholly unaccountable international organization run by, incredibly, a guy who is a puppet of the Chinese Communist Party.
Right.
Um, your thoughts about this uh, further assault on our constitutional republic? And again, the oath of office, which you and I both swore, and so has Xavier Becerra, and for that matter, Joe Biden, to protect and defend
Right.
the Constitution of the United States.
Well, it's a completely insane proposition, but again, it's not just. This is the hard part for people to get their heads around. I think, Frank, we both know because people don't want to actually face the magnitude of what is happening in this country. You want to keep trying to think, oh my God, he's incompetent, he's an idiot, he's there. This is stupid, and not just face. No, this is deliberate, and this is intentional, and this is done knowingly. And the idea that we would, as you say, have an organization that is basically the WHO, a puppet of the Chinese Communist Party, run by a guy who's a Maoist revolutionary, and we're going to seriously entertain for 5 seconds the idea of giving them any authority over anything inside the United States is insane.
Yeah. If it were any
What
authority, it'd be one thing. It's complete authority, as far as I can tell, for anything that this Dr. Tedros character
complete
deems to be
madness.
a public health emergency of international concern, and that
Yeah,
could be, heavens knows, gun violence, or climate change, or insurrections, or who knows what all else. Sam, very quickly before we let you go, you are, as a former government employee, both in the military and in the Central Intelligence Agency, as I understand it, a participant in the world's largest retirement fund,
right.
the thrift savings plan of the federal government. What do you think about the idea that the thrift savings plan is now poised to create conditions under which people like you will be encouraged to invest in mutual funds without knowledge, certainly not knowledge from those managing this thrift savings plan, that you're investing in companies owned and controlled by the Chinese Communist Party?
Yeah, so you can imagine it's the height of the Cold War, and we are told we're going to take our retirement money from our DoD employees and folks out of the intelligence community, and we're going to. I mean, what this amounts to is we be giving the money to the Soviet Union so they can build more tanks to get ready to overrun West Germany, and that's a serious proposal, guys. We should help them build more weapons so we lose the next war. So let's fast forward. That is precisely what we're doing here. We're going to give our money from our soldiers, intelligence operatives, and so forth to the communist Chinese so they can be better equipped when they invade Taiwan, when they sink our carrier battle groups in the Western Pacific. Yeah, that's a genius plan. And again, it's one of those things
Yeah,
like we keep coming back to you, Frank. You can't tell me that that's just stupid because nobody, I
right.
mean, that's deliberate that you are financing that.
Yeah, it's malfeasant, and I think again it betrays our country, and
Yes.
that's not acceptable. And Sam, we talk about this a lot, and we'll have to do this with our next conversation with you because we're out of time now. But I think it also creates conditions under which the men and women in uniform and government employees whose money is being invested are being compromised themselves. And that is an internal security
Yes.
problem, as well
Yeah.
as, of course, the one that you've mentioned, which is making our enemies even more capable of our destruction. Sam Faddis, you are one great American. We're privileged to have you on this program each week, and we look forward to talking with you in the next one. Thank you for your time today, my friend. Next up, Dr.
Thank you.
David Wormser on the latest developments in the Middle East and what they mean for you right after this.